Do you ever feel like there's an invisible thread pulling at your choices, especially when it comes to what you believe you deserve or who you draw close to in your life? Perhaps there's a quiet, unseen weight that seems to influence your confidence or the way you approach your biggest dreams. A subtle current that you can't quite name but can definitely feel. It's a feeling many of us share, this sense of an undercurrent shaping our lives in ways we don't always understand. And sometimes this invisible weight, this subtle shaping force, can be traced back to one of the earliest and most significant relationships we have, the one with our father, or the primary father figure in our lives. Carl Jung, a wise explorer of the inner world, spoke of how these early experiences can create what he called complexes. He wasn't talking about something complicated in a bad way, but rather like little knots of emotion, memory, and expectation that form in our unconscious, often in childhood, and can then echo throughout our adult lives, influencing us without us even realizing it. Today, we're going to gently explore one of these, what we might call the father complex, and how it can quietly and sometimes profoundly shape our paths, our relationships, our ambitions, and even how we truly feel about ourselves. This isn't about blame, not at all. It's about compassionate understanding. Our fathers, too, were shaped by their own experiences, their own limitations, their own unfulfilled longings. But acknowledging the impact of our early fatherly connection, or lack thereof, can be incredibly freeing. It's like finding a map to a part of our inner landscape we didn't know existed. So, what does this invisible weight feel like? It can wear many faces, depending on our unique story. Perhaps your father was physically absent, or maybe he was there but emotionally distant, unavailable. This can leave a very real space within, a deep longing for a certain kind of masculine presence, for support, for validation. Or maybe your father was often critical, demanding, or had incredibly high expectations that felt impossible to meet. It can make it incredibly hard to celebrate your own successes, to internalize praise, or to feel genuinely confident from within. Sometimes the father figure is put on a pedestal, idealized, seen as perfect or all-powerful, perhaps even someone we felt we could never live up to. This too can create an invisible weight. And then there are fathers who may have been overwhelming, controlling, or perhaps even hurtful. The echoes of these experiences can be profound, affecting our ability to trust, to feel safe in relationships, or to assert our own boundaries. Carl Jung had such a profound way of looking at these inner dynamics. He suggested that we all carry within us an inner blueprint, what he called an archetypal image of father energy. This isn't just about our personal dad. It's about a universal human need for certain qualities traditionally associated with the positive father figure. Things like guidance, structure, protection, the encouragement to go out into the world and build, the voice that says, "You can do this." When our real-life experience with our personal father figure doesn't quite match that inner blueprint, or is particularly painful, that mismatch, that dissonance, creates an energy, this complex, that continues to seep resolution within us. And how does this unresolved energy, this invisible weight, show up in our day-to-day lives? In our relationships, we might find ourselves unconsciously seeking out partners who mirror aspects of our father, sometimes hoping to heal that old wound, to finally get the love or approval we craved. Or perhaps we find ourselves repeating challenging dynamics because they feel familiar, even if they're not healthy. When it comes to our ambitions and our confidence, this weight can be a powerful, unseen director. It can fuel a relentless drive to achieve, a deep-seated need to prove our worth, Perhaps to that father figure who was hard to please or who never seemed to notice our efforts. Conversely, it might manifest as persistent self-sabotage, a fear of truly stepping into our full potential because deep down an old, internalized voice whispers that we're not capable, not deserving, or that success is somehow dangerous. And at the very core, so often, is that quiet ache in our self-worth, that persistent feeling of not quite good enough, or the constant need for external validation to feel okay about who we are. It's like carrying around an invisible measuring stick that was handed to us very early on, and we're still unconsciously using it to judge ourselves, our partners, and our lives long after we've grown. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." What a profoundly insightful observation. He's saying that these unexamined influences, these invisible weights from our past, like the father complex, don't just disappear on their own. They continue to shape our decisions, our reactions, our attractions, often from just beneath the surface of our awareness. And we might just think, oh, that's just how I am, or that's just my lack in relationships, or I guess I'm just not an ambitious person, when really, it could be an old story, an old emotional pattern quietly replaying itself and calling the shots. But the beautiful thing, the truly hopeful thing, is that by bringing these patterns into the gentle light of our awareness, we begin to reclaim our power to choose differently. This isn't about dwelling in the past or assigning blame. It's about understanding the why behind some of our current struggles so we can start to heal and to live more freely, more authentically. So what does this path towards understanding and healing, towards lightening this invisible weight, look like? It's a gentle journey, taken one step at a time, with deep compassion for yourself. The very first step, always, is awareness. Simply noticing, with kindness and curiosity, rather than judgment. There's that feeling of not being good enough again when my boss gives me feedback. Or, I notice I often feel anxious when someone I care about needs space. I wonder if that connects to feeling abandoned as a child. It's about becoming a compassionate observer of your own inner world. Then comes the practice of self-compassion. This is so vital. It's about learning to offer ourselves the understanding, the encouragement, the validation, and the unconditional acceptance that we might have longed for from our father figure, but perhaps didn't fully receive. It's about becoming that kind, steady, supportive inner parent to ourselves. Part of this journey is also about finding your own true voice. It's about gently untangling your authentic desires, your core values, and your unique strengths from the echoes of those early messages or expectations. What do you truly believe about yourself? What kind of life do you truly want to build based on what genuinely matters to you? It can also be helpful to consciously seek out and cultivate healthy, supportive relationships with people who embody positive, nurturing qualities. Perhaps mentors, friends, or partners who see you, support you, and encourage your growth. These relationships can help to create new, more positive imprints. Remember, Jung understood that these deeply human experiences, these complexes, weren't signs of being broken or flawed. Far from it. He saw them as natural parts of the human psyche, and more importantly, as potential pathways to deeper self-knowledge, healing, and ultimately to wholeness, what he called individuation, the journey of becoming more fully and authentically ourselves. By courageously and compassionately exploring these inner dynamics, we're not just healing old wounds, we're reclaiming vital parts of ourselves. We're learning to carry that weight differently, perhaps even to set some of it down. This exploration of the invisible weight of the father complex is a profound act of self-love and courage. It's about understanding that your father's story, his limitations, his way of being, is not the final word on your story unless you allow it to be. You get to write new chapters filled with your own wisdom, your own strengths, and your own unique vision for your life. It's a journey, not a destination, and every small step of understanding brings more light. Be patient with yourself. Be kind to yourself. You are untangling old threads to weave a new, more vibrant tapestry for your life. I wonder, as you've listened, have you noticed any gentle recognitions within yourself? Perhaps a pattern in your life or a persistent feeling that, looking back, might connect to these early experiences with your father figure. Sharing, even just acknowledging it to yourself, can be such a healing step. If you feel comfortable, I'd love to hear any thoughts or reflections in the comments below. This is a safe space for gentle sharing. Thank you so much for joining me in this quiet exploration today, for lending your heart and your time. It means the world. Remember, you are so much more than the stories of your past. You are resilient, capable, and deserving of a life filled with peace and joy. Sending you much warmth and light. Until next time.